This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November, and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Oh my goodness, I have been looking forward to this episode for so many months. I learned about Crystal last year. We started podcasting about the same time, and I was so intimidated by by another podcaster in Maine talking about similar subjects. And I decided that I really wanted to talk to her. I wanted to be on her podcast. I wanted her to be on my podcast. I just wanted to kind of team up and share our experiences. And it's finally happened. Crystal Sands she is like my kindred. She is like a sister from another mother. She is, except that she's like super, super skilled and very educated. So Crystal teaches at a college. She teaches writing. She's an author. She is a podcaster of a podcast called Farmer-ish. Not to be confused with Tara Osman's Farm-ish app to access local foods, but very similar. And so Crystal is also a homesteader. She's a homeschooler, just really, really interesting animal lover. I'll say it a few times during this episode, I love her stories because she is so descriptive, and she tells stories about her chickens, which I could totally do, but I always felt like nobody wanted to hear it. But probably because I don't write like she does. So I'm going to get to Crystal. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. I can't wait to talk to her again. So here is Crystal Sands. Today my guest is Crystal Sands. And Crystal, I've been following you for about a year now. And I love your podcast. You have a podcast called Farmer-ish. And you also have a journal, and you are a farmer-ish. You have some chickens, and do you have other critters?
We have ducks. We have 7 Indian runner ducks.
Oh my gosh, Indian runners are so freaking cute.
They're fantastic.
Do you have, I love your logo actually. So the podcast and the journal have the same name. Is that right?
They do. Yeah, I'm original, right? Yeah,
it's easy to keep track of. Yeah. We were just talking about that. But so Farmer-ish, what's that about?
Okay, yeah. So there's a great story behind that. When we started homesteading in like 2011, 2012. And then we got chickens a couple years later. And when we got chickens, I'm like, we're farmers now. And my husband, who grew up in Montana, like rural Montana, and he's like, no, we're not farmers. Farmers have tractors and acres and we're not farmers. And I'm like, well, we're farmer-ish. And that's just right. Kind of stuck that. And I feel like I do a lot of things where I'm like, well, I guess I'm not real, but I'm ish, and I love it. And so that's how it got started. So that's where it came from.
I love that. I mean, that's a bummer that he just brought you down. No, look at me farming. You're not really farming, honey. whatever makes you feel good. Okay.
Right.
So okay, so he was in Montana and you were in Texas.
Right.
How did you end up in Maine?
Yeah, so we met in Oregon, and then I got a job teaching in Maine, and so we moved across the country when our son, who's now almost 14, when he was little, we came across, and we loved it here. I came for the job, and then we got here, and I was leaving the job, and I was just like, I can't, where else can I live? There's nowhere else. And so it was so great because I had always felt, I had lived in lots of different places and it always felt kind of nowhere is my home. And then I don't know, Maine just felt like my home, which is great. It's a great thing to even say that.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And I mean, I didn't know about you until I saw you on a Maine Facebook page, so I'm so glad. Because I'm really enjoying it.
Oh,
But
yay.
so the podcast and the journal are you telling stories about your farmer-ish adventures.
Yeah, so like the we started the journal first, and so it's our stories, but also a collection of other people's stories. So it's, other farmers and homesteaders. Sometimes it's educational where they're, giving instruction and, offering learning from their stories. And sometimes it's just the stories that speak to your heart, and, just there's magic and love and so much that goes into to farming and homesteading, and so sometimes it's just some of that, but it is all about the storytelling. And about 2 years into the journal, we decided to branch out a little bit, and that's when I started the podcast, which I'm like still working on being regular with that. And then I started a blog that's connected to it. And that part is just me. So I set a goal of blogging every day for one whole year. And it's been a challenge, but it's been great. I'm on day like 274, I think. And so it's just this like real time of like what goes on our little homestead. And so it will be everything from I'm making jam today to the chicken did this or the ducks did this and the dog did that. And so that's been an adventure too, but it's been great because I feel like the blogging about what we do every day has helped me kind of like reflect more and feel more thankful for it all, which is, key to happiness, I think.
Right? Oh my gosh, when you said you were writing every day, I had noticed that you had a lot of entries recently, and but I didn't read back 206, what is it,
Yeah.
267 days?
Yeah.
But I was my first thought was, oh my gosh, you're homesteading. Like, how much do things change? But it's so true. Like and especially, you're bonding with your homestead and everything that's going on. Like you know your chickens like I know my chickens, maybe even better than I know my chickens. And so you have great stories. You like wrote a story about every one of your chickens.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some that are still like they're due, their stories are still due, but I try to tell the stories about each one. They're fascinating animals to me. They just it was I really probably should have majored in biology in college. I love, animal behavior. And so getting to homestead and get to live so up close with these animals every day, it's just they're fascinating, and they have such distinct personalities, as you know. I had
Yes.
no idea when we first got chickens. Like, I had always heard, oh, chickens are stupid, and I figured that was not true, but I didn't know at all what to expect. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's some that are stinkers and stubborn and difficult, and some that are sweet and charming, and some that are prideful, and some that complain about everything all the time. And just like people. Yeah.
It's true. But now staying at home, there are people. because I
Yes.
I don't see people that often, only on Zoom.
Yes. Yes. That's right. I even call them my people because I don't know how else to refer
Right?
to them. But yeah.
They're my peeps.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I totally get that, and I think it's so cool that you have that to reflect on. I feel like a lot we should probably do that more just in general to appreciate what we do, and just like you said, just to reflect on it. I know I did a challenge a few years ago to write a happy thing down and put it in a jar every day for a
Oh,
year,
nice.
and then at the end of the year to go through them all, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all these beautiful things that happened.
Oh,
You're like, life is awesome.
that's awesome.
And that was a really cool thing. But just to go through, the challenges and everything, like, wow, that was a big year. So
Yeah.
much happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very interested in going back through. We had a terrible drought last summer. I don't know if you had the drought in your area too, but the drought was just, it was everything. It was like all I could, it consumed us. And
Hmm.
so all my writing during that drought is very like rain focused and please rain, please rain, please rain. And it I think it'll be interesting when I'm done with the whole 365 to go back, but I think the drought is probably one of the most interesting like segments of it.
Oh, probably more challenging than most.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, what a what a summer that was.
Yeah. Yeah, my garden was garbage last year, and I don't know if it was that or if I mean I actually was home all the time, so I it was a bummer, that's for sure. I'm gonna blame the drought.
The drought, that's right. It was a doozy.
And that was early in the summer, right? That was earlier because it did rain later toward fall, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say when it got toward fall, it finally, yeah, let loose
A
and
lot.
yeah. It's like, oh, it all came this week. Yeah.
Yeah. I it gave me a lot of understanding of like California, how dry and it's just not as hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about that a lot. We've had a couple of years of some months of drought, and I think about that. Like I have some friends who farm in Oregon, and I think it was the year before last when it was just people were just closing up shop. They getting rid of their animals. They couldn't water their animals. They couldn't do anything. And generations of farmers on the same land just having to pack
Quit.
up and be done. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, I can't imagine.
I know, we're so lucky to be here when a drought is temporary.
Right, right, right.
But how do they I wonder about that a lot, like in California where it's so dry so much. Like how do they farm? How do they grow all the lettuce that is sold in the grocery stores?
Right, right. I
Because
yeah,
that's the lettuce capital of the country, really.
yeah, I guess irrigation, from different water sources, which are now, of course,
Dried up.
drying up.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
and so I'm trying to remember it's the podcast. Um, you did the last episode was about bees, and that
Yes.
was really interesting. And that was when I it was one of the first that I learned about bees.
Oh,
I uh yeah, I haven't I'm scared of bees. In fact, I was scared of my chickens. The first we got them as tiny little fluffy chicks, and I was like, how can I be scared of that? But they move so fast. And I literally couldn't hold them for the first 6 months, and then one of them got stuck in a tree in the dark, and I had to
you
get her
had to deal
down.
with it.
Like she's not going to come on her own. So and then it was all now I'm fine.
That's great. That's great. I was scared of chickens for the longest time. When I was a little girl, my great grandmother had chickens, and I was like in kindergarten. and she took me out to collect the eggs, and her coop was kind of dark, so it was kind of scary anyway to me, and the hen pecked me really hard.
Oh my gosh.
And then, like, I don't know how close of a time frame it was, but in my little kid mind, it was very short time after I actually caught chicken pox at school. And I thought that the chicken gave me chicken pox. And so I was, was terrified of chicken
Stay away.
when I was little.
Oh my gosh.
I
We were meant to talk.
I don't
This
know
is
how old I
wild.
was when I learned that was like absolutely not true, but I did learn.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still scared of bees. That is like the only time you'll ever see me running is if there's a bee. I mean, maybe a bear, but I have not seen one yet.
Oh, yeah.
But I have a neighbor that has bees. I had her on the podcast, but she's like a quarter mile away, and we had a lot of bees last year, and she was like, "Yeah, they're probably mine." Like,
Oh, yeah.
your bees are over here. Oh my gosh. I was like, "Oh, wow. So you have those big hives, and they come out of the hives and they fly over to my house." What?
That's
What?
great.
Wait a second. Our catnip was amazing. The bees loved it.
I was gonna say, our neighbor had bees for a few years, and she doesn't keep them anymore, but our garden misses the bees terribly. Yeah, they were great.
And I'm trying to remember what your other episodes were about, but I knew, and I love, like I said, I love your stories about your chickens.
I was gonna
Um,
say there was a chicken episode. There's another chicken episode coming. There'll probably be many more chicken episodes.
that's all right.
I try to do other topics too.
Yeah, and I remember your son is a musician. He
Yes.
plays violin,
Cello. He plays
cello.
cello. Yeah, yeah. He's only 13, almost 14, but he's very serious. And so it's a lot. We have to travel a bit and things like that for it. But
Is it
it's
like competitions or
I was gonna say the
performances?
competitions are just kind of kicking in. We've got a spring full of music competitions this coming year. So yeah. But it's
Is it like,
beautiful music.
yeah, right? Is it like Allstate or something like that for?
He is not yet in high school, so he can't do some of there will be a lot more next year, but there are some competitions that are for junior high age. And so
Okay.
those are the ones he's getting into now.
Your cat is grooming the other cat. It's very cute.
They're sisters, and we got them together, and they're just the best. I love them. There's two, there's Betty and Bella, and we got them to help with the mice and rats of the farm. They're just house cats. We couldn't leave them outside. I was like, oh, but and mainly because Betty, she doesn't like it outside, and she didn't want to stay out there, and she would cry at the door, and I was like, well, we're coming in.
Yep. We adopted a cat a year and a half ago, and she loves to go outside and hang out with the chickens. She'll hang out in the chicken pen. But then I found out that she uses the dust bath bin that's in the chicken pen for a litter box,
Yeah.
and the coop just smelled so bad. I'm like, well, I can't do, like, you can't go out there anymore.
Oh, no.
You ruined it. Oh boy. But she's a good mouser.
That's
She's
great.
very patient, and she will just sit there quietly.
That's great.
But she pees in the dust bath, and that's
That's
not
math.
okay. But so you have ducks and you have chickens and you garden, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have a giant organic garden, and we don't have a lot of land. It's less than like 1.7. It's around 1.7 acres, and we just try to take the most advantage of it that we can. And we grow right now, we estimate about 60% of our own food, with just chickens, ducks, and the garden. But we're always trying to little bit,
Up it a
like
little bit.
add a little bit every year. So hopefully we can do a little more this year. We'll see how it goes, but
That's
I have,
excellent.
yeah.
I got 2 eggs today. I'm like partying.
Yeah. That's so great. We had some new hens, some babies from the summer. So this has been a year where we've had some, even though it was really slow in the like November, December, they kicked in. And so we've had a few, but they're tiny.
Yeah. Oh, because you got some from Andy.
That's right. I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're so great.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting some this year.
Oh, what kinds are you getting?
I think I'm getting a variety. I want to try. I don't care. I just want them to be nice.
Yeah.
And they just seem like really hardy breeds, and the Saramas are just too freaking cute.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I asked for a couple of silkies just because they're broody. I actually like the broodies because I feel like they will protect the babies. Um,
We have a broody crisis every year. Half our flock goes broody.
oh my goodness.
No, no. It's I read about people who's like, oh, really? What can I do to get my hen to go broody? I'm like, have them come visit our coop, I guess. It's just wild. The
Can we
broodiness.
like rent one of your hens?
I would
Because
be
my chickens are they're so clicky, and I struggle with like bringing new ones in because I'm afraid that they're going to pick on them. I'm so I I don't I think you probably understand. But so if someone is broody and they if I had a broody hen and I got some like fertilized eggs, that hen will hatch the eggs and they will protect the babies.
yeah.
And that's the only way I've been able to have chicks come in. But we haven't had a broody for like 2-3 years.
Oh.
So now we're gonna get a bunch of chickens, and then they can gang up on the old girls.
Right.
It's the things that we do. My goodness.
Right. Right.
But anyway, yeah, I'm excited to get some from Andy. I went to visit him a couple of Christmas time-ish, and I was just admiring the chickens. They're so beautiful.
Oh yeah, he does amazing work, and we got one of them was a black copper Moran. After those dark chocolate eggs, and she lays the like chocolatiest egg. She's just perfect.
Oh,
She's
yay.
so sweet. I just love her. I love her.
Yeah. I've heard too much about the industrial breeders, and I just want to go with the backyard. And Andy's the only guy that I know that's close-ish to me.
Our our very first flock was, I knew nothing when we got chickens, and so our very first flock was some production Rhode Island Reds from the online store.
Right.
Boy, what an introduction to health problems, genetic issues, those kinds of things that it was. And I was like, yeah, we're doing something different, from now on.
Right.
Amazingly, we still have one hen left. She's 9, but nobody else made it,
Right. This far, that's for sure. Yeah. Oh boy. Who knew? Who knew that they would tug at our hearts so?
Gosh, right, right, right.
But okay. And so do you bake jam and stuff like that? You make
Yeah.
So you make a lot of the food that you.
We do. We just went through, it was again a process, but it was just this focus on eating what we grow. And so just changing the way that we ate so that we were eating from the garden. And then also we just started baking every bit of our own breads, like grinding the wheat and, doing all that.
Wow.
My husband has like we don't know what he's allergic to in like store-bought breads, but there's something. And so that was that kind of started that. And so it's very our lives are very much centered around the food that we grow or get from local farms. And yeah, it's we eat well though. It's very good. I have a hard time now even just going out to eat, even at like a really nice restaurant. I'm like, well, it's pretty good.
Right. Sure. Wow, that's cool. So you grind your own grains.
Yeah, yeah. We do still get like, the all-purpose flour at the store when I'm making cookies and, things like that. Although my husband has tried to put like the whole ground wheat into everything. And my
Ooh,
son and I are like,
that's harsh on the system. I need something to taste sweet, please.
yes.
Because it's just really,
Yes.
it's really wheaty.
Yes. Yes.
Mm. Oh boy. Cookies. I love cookies.
Yeah, me too. I love to bake too much. I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you bake your own bread and you make like sauces and stuff
Yes,
as
yes.
well.
We have the tomatoes just do so well. So, we process all those on our own. And yeah, it's really just very heavily focused on there's this we I call it our little cycle of sustainability. And so it's this process. And so we try to just be pretty good about sticking to it and eating what we grow and using that. And I think one of the things that was the most powerful to me, having grown up just eating everything from the grocery store
Hmm.
and having no idea when I was throwing away food what all I was throwing away.
Hmm.
um and it's very eye-opening when the work, the water, the resources that goes into that food, and it's like you just don't want to waste anything.
Hmm.
And so it's just this super focus on changing our eating habits. And of course it's a process, but we get a little better every year, I think.
Yeah, it's
We
just yeah.
do.
I mean, we just one of the things that I've learned is that you just focus on one thing and you get so you get so good at it that it doesn't feel like anything, and then you just add
Right.
something else, and
And then
then
you can add in one
yeah,
more. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, you don't have to do all the things all at once. You just
Yeah,
add a little bit at a time, and it feels less daunting.
yeah.
But oh, I had a question. Oh, are you saving seeds?
We do. There's
That's
something
cool.
that I don't know really how, like I don't know how to save seeds for carrots. Like there's a longer process with them. So there's some things that, and we haven't saved seeds for any of our greens. Like they go to seed, but I haven't yet
Seen
like
the seeds?
I haven't yet learned how to do that one. But the stuff that's easy, like the green beans and the squash and the pumpkins and the corn, and like the seeds are big and easy.
Tomatoes and peppers you can recognize.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can just pull those out. And
right.
we're actually hoping to do a little more. We had some heirloom corn and I had been saving the seed, but I wasn't saving from enough like diverse plants. And so over the years, it wasn't doing as well. And then I read more and saw, oh, I should have been saving seeds from like 30 or 40 different
Oh my
instead
goodness.
of like 5. So,
Oh,
I'm hoping to, learn from mistakes and do better. But we do save a lot of seeds, and it's one of those things that also, of course, saves us a lot of money too. And right now, with food so expensive, everything is so expensive. That's one of the things that I've noticed most dramatically, is that while the things we get are still just astronomical at the store, but it's so little that it hasn't, like, we're not feeling the pain as much as like a lot of my family and my friends are, who, are just there. It's a worry.
right.
Um,
Now, where did you get the homesteading thing? Is that from your husband because he grew up in the
Yeah, I would say mostly from him. But he wasn't, as an adult, he wasn't homesteading or anything either. He grew up on what we would call a homestead, and they had chickens in a huge garden and things like that. But as an adult, he had just left it all behind. And we actually watched a Michael Pollan interview, and then I read a few of Michael Pollan's books, and I was like, I would like to step out of the food system a little bit more. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And my husband is so frugal. And that's kind of how the sustainability thing started. I tease, but I actually read this really long biography of Thoreau, and I'm like, it is like being married to Thoreau. He's that frugal. Um, uh, and I had interviewed some people. I was doing an article on gardening sustainably, and everything that the experts were saying to do were things that my husband was already doing, but he was doing it because he was going to save money. And so it was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So we're saving money, and we're like living more sustainably and creating this little loop on our farm that is it's very efficient. And that's what he was so after. He was after this efficiency.
Mhm.
And then, like, I just caught the bug. I mean, I had only had grocery store tomatoes.
Right.
And
Once you
then
have out of the garden, it's not the same thing at all.
yeah, I'm like,
Bell
oh,
peppers. Oh my goodness.
right. And I'm just like gobbling up tomatoes and peppers and green beans and foods I didn't even think I liked. We had kohlrabi, and I'm like, what's a kohlrabi? But it's great too. And so I just latched on to it, and it's been great for me.
Oh, awesome. So, Crystal, when I say the word sustainability, where does that send you? What does that mean to you?
For me, I think it's a couple of things. It's about like a cycle, a cycle that you can create that eliminates or at least cuts way down on waste. And that was one of the things that has happened to me more and more as we've been homesteading, is just this. I just detest waste. It just seems, well, it's so wasteful. It just seems like a tragedy to me to waste. And so to me, sustainability is it's about this cycle that is like hopefully doing good too. I had someone tell me, well, you should focus on the word regenerative as opposed to sustainability. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, and I was like, well, I hadn't really thought about that. And so I looked, I'm like, I look up the terms. And I can see though that in my definition of sustainability, regenerative was in there.
Right.
Um, and so, when we first moved to our property, the soil had been, they had used chemicals. And so it was, such a process to rehabilitate the soil, and to see what the difference in, 12, 13, 14 years to see the difference in that earth. It's just, we started doing this, and then suddenly we have more frogs, we have, more nature. It's just, I guess
Everything's
that's a
happy.
really long-winded answer. But I
It's a
guess
big word.
it's hard for me to define its sustainability, but I have an idea in my head, and it is about a cycle that does include a regenerative aspect to it.
Sure. I mean, it makes total sense. And I've been dying to ask you, Crystal, what are you teaching? You teach at a college.
I do. I teach writing. But I teach all different kinds of writing. So, like, my favorite thing that I do is I work with doctoral students who are working on their dissertations, and all their dissertations are in either science or education or healthcare. Those are the three majors that I work
Wow.
with. And so it's like I help them with their writing and being more clear and citing and those kinds of things. But at the same time, I get to learn from their research. And so it's like it's this wonderful cycle of helping each other. And it's great because I get to read about, issues in healthcare and issues in science, and issues in education, which obviously I feel passionately about. And I try to be of good help to them in return, of course, and help them with their writing. It feels like an important job to me. Sometimes I think about, like, the good work that my students do, and the good work that people who have, devoted their lives to studying this one tiny aspect of science, for example. But if they can't get it out to the rest of us, if they can't convey that knowledge to us, then I'm like, it's wasted. And so
Right?
I'm like, and so I teach them, I teach from that angle. I tell them, they'll come to me hating writing.
Wow.
And
What an
I'm,
important role you play.
well,
I mean, when you
this is
say
how I
it
tell
like that,
myself.
but then also like you get to absorb all of this like passion and all of this information from them, from
Yeah,
other classes that they're taking
yeah.
by teaching them how to write better. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I read their dissertations, and I'm like, oh, yay. Thank you for
Look
this
at how
knowledge.
smart I am
I'm such
now.
a geek, and so it's just great.
That's so cool. Wow. And I just want to say, Crystal, I love that your like genre, the way that you are telling stories is so engaging. I love that you love to tell the stories. And I've told you this before, but just like talking about your chickens and having a story about your chickens is just so heartwarming. It's so easy to listen to, and
Um,
it's so needed because I think that there are also a lot of people that think of, the homestead and the animals as, they're just animals and it's just business. And maybe it's just me because I feel similarly that I'm like, I'm just gonna latch onto her and I want her to tell me stories forever.
oh, that's the best. That's great. Yeah, I one time my neighbor asked me, she said, "Why do you name all your chickens?" And I thought about it, and I said, well, if they didn't have names, it would be really hard to tell stories about them.
How would you tell them apart?
I'm like, I have to be able to come in and tell a story about whatever Schumann did today. I just had a chicken. Her name is Schumann. She's named after the composer because my son, the musician, he named her that. She had Bumble, and I didn't know she had Bumblefoot.
Mm.
But I let him out yesterday to play, and she comes up to my feet and is just staying put. And then she holds up the foot right in front of me, and I'm like, Schumann, what's going on? And she's like, I'm
This,
holding up the
hello.
foot. and I pick her up, and sure enough, she has Bumble. But her ability to like that she knows me enough that to say I'm staying here until I get your attention. She knows I'm someone who can help.
Mm.
And yeah, what an honor that is. It feels like this huge honor to me. I mean, they don't all do that. Sometimes I'm like, you let me give you an inspection, and they're squawking and crying. And
Yep.
but but yesterday Schumann came to me and said, help me.
Help me. Yeah.
So we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you had written. I'm not sure if it was about Shuan, but you said that you could be a chicken doctor
Yeah. I was
on
there was
call.
one of my friends who lives in Florida was like, so we have a health situation with our chickens. And so I'm like asking all these questions. We were back and forth all day. And I'm like, like I wish I had some training in medicine.
Right? But you know that with all the years that we've been keeping chickens, I know for myself, like I feel like I see a different issue every year, and it's not like it's never the same thing twice. So if someone says, "Oh, my chicken, like she can't stand, like she can't hold herself up," check for Merrick's. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't say that's really what it is, but just check.
I know. It's like these are like this the starting points. Check all these things first
Yeah.
and then keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just look up Merrick's and see if that
Yeah.
sounds right. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's oh gosh, chickens. Whew.
Yeah.
If only they could tell us. But I mean, Schumann did
I know, right? She's like doing her best. She's like holding it up.
this. Look at this. Wow. So Crystal, how can someone find you or follow you to learn your stories?
Yay. So we have a website, and it's the homepage it's for the journal, but it's also the homepage for everything else. And so the blog and the podcast and art, we have an Etsy shop. Everything is housed there. It's www.farmerish.net. And yeah, I hope people will come and check us out.
You have an Etsy shop?
We do, we
I
do.
missed that. Do you have merch?
We do. We actually have some new farmerish t-shirts that are like coming online this week.
You
Um,
have merch.
but I make beeswax candles out of upcycled jars because I couldn't waste the jars.
Good for you.
I was like, these jars are beautiful. And we in our area, we lost recycling like 2 or 3 years ago. It's probably 3 years ago. And that was just devastating to me. And so now I'm like, oh, this beautiful glass jar needs a purpose in life.
Oh my gosh. Are you recycling again now or
We have no recycling. And so that has forced us into like just
right?
extreme, like you cannot buy that. There's nothing,
Right?
no
Yeah.
trying so hard to eliminate single use everything
So
because
you're not recycling anything or
we
it's
have
not
no recycling except for
wow.
like the stuff that has the main deposit.
Oh,
um
okay. Bottles and
we will,
cans.
yeah, we'll save those, but we don't have a ton of those. But like like one of the things right now I'm struggling with is like mayonnaise and ketchup. I get those at the grocery store. They're in the giant plastic things, and I buy it in bulk because that helps, I guess. But when it's done, I'm like, there's
Now
that
what?
plastic
Yeah.
going in the garbage, and there's no recycling for us. It's in our whole area. There's no
Wow.
recycling.
Wow. I know we lost glass recycling for a couple of years and it was I was so frustrated because they were saying, it's more economical to just throw the glass away because it's too expensive to recycle because they were doing it by weight and whatever. I was just like, I refuse. Like I will not throw glass away because glass is actually recyclable. And so I
Right.
was just like, I'm not buying anything in glass. Not buying, I'm buying in like cans if anything, and we'll just use glass jars. And we did buy hot sauce in bottles, and then I started like making my own vanilla extract and making elderberry syrup, and so I'll put those in the hot sauce jars. And I was like,
Awesome.
those would be actually nice gifts because they're very cute. I clean the labels off, and
Right, right. That's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. That's oh, yeah. We are same.
but I still have this collection of bottles that were just too pretty to let go of. Now that we're recycling glass again, they decided that it was okay.
That's great that it's back. Yeah, I hope that we can get something back someday. Yeah.
Man, that's really tricky. I wish you were closer to me because I would just take your recycling. Do you have any neighbors that are off? You said it's the whole area.
It's like all the small towns in this part of Maine, everybody lost recycling.
Jeez.
So yeah, it was a blow. But we definitely it forced us to cut down tremendously on what we were buying and everything from like my son used to drink these teas in plastic bottles and I'm like no more, and so we got the glass bottles and I make tea and I put them in there and we just keep reusing and so it like just constantly finding a way to cut down on what goes in the garbage is just that it's a mission. It's a mission. It doesn't happen overnight, but
Right?
in the 3 years or so since we've lost it, we've made great progress and I just keep trying to do the work.
Right. Oh boy. I have a really great recipe that a friend gave me for tomato jam, which is very much like ketchup. It's just like chunky ketchup.
Oh
It's
wow.
delicious.
That sounds really good. We have so many tomatoes. I should knock on wood. Like usually we have so many tomatoes. It would be great. Yeah, that I was gonna say that's my mission is to make some ketchup this year.
Yeah. I've never made ketchup otherwise. I mean, I've only made the tomato jam, but it tastes like spicy ketchup. And so you could probably use
Awesome.
less spices if you like that, but
Awesome. Oh, that's
um,
good to know. I'm gonna try it. Thank you.
yay. Okay, well, so farmerish.net is your website, and everything can be found there, Etsy
Yes.
store included.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
very
Yes.
cool. So you're
Yes.
selling your beeswax candles
I
on the
do,
Etsy shop.
and we do a every year in the fall we do a print annual, and it's this, and I just make it as beautiful as I can make it. It's a big book that is a collection of stories and photographs and recipes and things like that, and so
Oh boy.
that's in our Etsy shop as well. And those have done like pretty well, like that they keep us going. So I'm hoping to grow it a little bit in the coming year.
Cool. You know why? Because you tell great stories.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to let you go, Crystal, but thank you so much for sharing tonight. I'm so glad that we did this. I can't
Oh,
even.
yay. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
All right. I'll talk to you again. I just want to take a moment and thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I also need to thank Buzzsprout for hosting this podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her amazing music genius, for Becca Coffron and her beautiful artwork. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Please check out the show notes. I'm going to have links posted in there if you would like to follow this guest and learn more about them. Thank you again. We'll talk to you soon.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, how do I get there from here? 'Cause here and now we'll find a way to soothe the sickness. We'll heal the hate with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. When that state of grace has finally found me, well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder,